thing across the top.
So Facebook says live video is starting, so everybody that's watching live is hearing this, and this will be part of the pre-roll. But all right, now we are officially live.
Yeah.
So hello everybody, welcome to Friday Afternoons with SSBE Spokane Small Business and Entrepreneur. We are here on another Friday. It's 3 o'clock, and before we get too far, I want to introduce John Kuzachev, one of the regulars on the show. Not in frame yet because he hasn't said anything. So John, say hello.
Hello.
There he is. Okay, there's John. John is not able to stick around for the whole time, but John and myself and Melissa are doing an event next Saturday that I wanted to make sure he got a chance to tell you all about. So John, what are we doing next Saturday?
I'm responsible. We're hosting a workshop. It is a combination of cold immersion, cold plunging, ice bathing, whatever you want to call it, and blood sugar. I'll be speaking on the benefits and kind of some of the science behind cold immersion, as well as offering the opportunity to try it for yourself. You don't have to get all the way in the ice. You can just stick a leg, a hand, whatever, to practice it. Jonathan and Melissa will also have the opportunity after their blood sugar talk to, why don't you talk about that for a second?
Sure, yeah, so we're gonna talk about blood sugar, and then we also have a in-body scan. So anybody that comes will be able to in-person measure a lot of key metrics to your body composition, water. There's a lot of different metrics. I'm not going to get into it now, but we'll explain what that is. It's a good opportunity to just kind of get a baseline of this is where I'm at.
Hey, Mike.
And then as you set targets, you can adjust that. But John has to leave, so I wanted to get started with him. Thanks for being here, John.
Next Saturday, February 1st from 10 to noon at my office. I can send Jonathan a poster to include in the comments.
Yeah, we'll have all that. Keep an eye out for it and reach out to myself or John or Melissa for more information.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Mike.
Thanks, John.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Hello, John.
Mike Segalini, welcome. We just got started. We haven't fully introduced everybody yet. Kip, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself last because Kip is our guest today, and Kip's gonna be talking about sports, college sports, and
sports guy.
Yeah, sports guy. So like almost like the old school news, right? Well, I guess they still do it. I don't know. I haven't watched that kind of TV in a while, but like, and now we're gonna go over the weather and now the sports. So at our sports desk, Kip Ambrose.
That was my dream when I was like 8 years old. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster as a little kid. So I feel like I'm finally fulfilling it now.
I love it.
This is happening.
Well, we'll have you give us a little update on what's going on in sports.
Yeah.
And then I like it. That's awesome. All right. New face, Nick. Nick, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you do.
My name's Nick Santilli. I'm in mortgage with Guardian Mortgage, and I'm part of this group because I wanted to see more of a diverse play field of other businesses and how people are kind of working through it and what their struggles are, and be with a group of people that can kind of share how to overcome.
Awesome. Love it. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. We're glad you're here. I'm Dave Rebel. I have a company called Stand Out Marketing Strategies, a promotional marketing agency. And I also have something called Stand Out Mastery. Stand Out Mastery is for personal development for any professionals that want to improve their skills in communication, connection, and collaboration. February 8th, please put that down in your calendar if anybody's interested in going to a free workshop. We'll be doing it at Shadle Library, and it's at 10:45 in the morning on a Saturday. It's a really easy thing for you to come do. You just got to email me at dave@daverebel.com and tell me you want to come, and I'll make sure you have a seat.
All right. Rob Reuter with IDIC Designs, Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations. And I am your all things technology for business. So I like to get in, solve business problems with the right technology that doesn't cost you a bundle.
Excellent. Welcome. Thank you. Mike?
Hey everyone, I'm Data Mining Mike. I'm a data scientist. I have the Blooming Biz Media Network, SpokaneAI.io. I also have a podcast on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and smash the bell. Data Mining Mike. I help everybody out in the world of data. Anything that involves data.
Fantastic. And I'm Jonathan Byron. I am a realtor here in Spokane. This year, my goal is to help 100 people buy a house. So we are working towards that goal. And if you know somebody that's making decent income and throwing their money away on rent, I'd love to chat with them. But that rounds up who we are. And Kip, we're gonna let you just take the floor.
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and then we'll segue into talking about
Yeah.
sports and all things related.
Absolutely, absolutely. My name's Kip, Kip Ambrose, and fun fact about myself, the only person in the United States with the name Kip Ambrose. So if you were searching for him, you found him. He's right
Wow.
here, one of one.
We've been doing that. We've been looking for.
I know, a lot of people have. A lot of people have. So you found him. And so what I do is I work for a department of Washington State Athletics called Washington State Sports Properties, which is the longest email address in the entire world. I don't like it. I wish it was shorter. But I work for WSU Athletics in sponsorships and partnerships. So my job is essentially when you're going to a WSU game, or maybe you see any WSU sporting event on TV, you see the ads running, whether it be like State Farm, Coors Light, to smaller, more Spokane specific companies too that are trying to market to Kook fans. That's my job. The headline for me is helping brands reach Kook fans. That's what I always like to say I do. And so my job is essentially to manage the current partners of Washington State and make sure that everything is really good with their partnership and it's top notch and I'm creating good relationships with them. But I'm also tasked with going out in the community and finding people that may not know what we do or may not see that as an option, and just talking to them and seeing if that could work for them and exploring more. And sometimes they sign on and it's great, and sometimes it's not a fit, and that's also fine, right? But you keep the connection, and if it ever works out, it works out. So it's a little bit about me and what I do. It's somewhat of a niche sort of marketing industry, but it's all around us, and you see it. I mean, sports, the eyeballs coming to sports are more and more and more. College sports are growing and continuing to receive more interest as there's more things changing with them. And so I think there's a really big opportunity for brands to take advantage of that. And we've seen that in the last few years, brands taking advantage of people becoming more passionate, more into their college football and college basketball teams over the years. And so I help them do that.
Fantastic. So I'm going to go in a different direction. We were talking beforehand, and there's so much in this that I know we're going to dive
There's
into.
a lot, yeah.
And I invite everybody, just kind of what are the questions that have come to your mind? But a different direction than we've already gone. I want to ask you, how did you get involved in this? What brought you
Yeah.
to sign on for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a sports nut. I mean, I grew up the kind of kid who could look at the back of a baseball card and tell you a guy's batting average and how many home runs he hit in 2004, and I just had it all memorized in my head. I was such a sports nut. I loved every single sport growing up. Unfortunately, was not blessed with being 6'5" and 250 pounds, so I didn't have much of a career going forward in it. But I always knew I wanted to make my life something related to sports in my career. And so I went to Texas Christian University down in Fort Worth, Texas, and I just wanted to intern at as many different departments as I possibly could there. And I eventually found their partnerships department when I was a senior, and I was getting a business marketing degree. And I figured out, I'm like, this is kind of the perfect intersection for me, because I can go into a meeting and talk to someone about their business needs, but also talk about the game on Saturday and also talk about the quarterback and how he did. And I felt like that was just the perfect intersection for me to exist in a business world. And so I went full speed ahead and actually worked for Oregon for 3 years before coming here. That was my first job out of college, was with the Ducks, and then took a job at Washington State about 11 months ago.
Awesome.
And moved up to Spokane and did the thing. And I guess I'm still new to Spokane. I don't know when you stop being new to Spokane.
That's a whole topic
That's
we can
probably
dive
another
into.
whole thing. We
Yeah.
don't need to go. But yeah, so that's how I got to where I am today.
Excellent.
Oh.
Awesome. I'm going to take a quick station break and introduce our new guest.
Hi,
Hi,
my name's Brandy Mays.
Brandy
Hey, Brandy.
Mays.
Yeah.
Welcome. And what do you do?
I have Aspire Co-Marketing and Systems, so I help small businesses with automation and marketing to help streamline and grow, save
Excellent.
time, money, sanity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. That
Yay,
is
marketing.
Yes.
Yeah.
that is
Big
going to be
marketing call
a
today.
topic that we will
Yeah.
definitely like to hear you chime in with what the conversation. So Kip just introduced himself. He is say it again just for
Yeah, I work for Washington State Athletics in corporate partnerships, which essentially means, I was telling before, my headline is I help brands reach Cougar fans, and that's just another way that you can market, and I'm sure you're aware of that way as well. So that's my job.
But it also goes beyond Cougar fans.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
It also does too.
Would you dare to actually work with anybody that didn't,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So we have a lot of fans, or we have a lot of partners who are Husky fans or Gonzaga fans or Oregon fans. And what I always tell them is, yes, like you might be a huge Husky fan, and I have my thoughts toward the Huskies working for Oregon and working for Washington State. Don't get me started on that. But
It's there.
yeah, it's there a little bit. I don't let it show in my meetings, but yeah, we have a ton of partners who are Husky fans, and what we always tell them, especially if we get the objection, like, well, I'm not a WSU fan, and it's like, that's totally fine. You might not be a WSU fan, but not everyone that walks through your door is a Husky fan.
But do you also say, we forgive you?
I say we forgive you, that's true, and then I remind them the score of the Apple Cup this last year. That's the next thing I say, so, yeah. But we work with, I mean, all different fans, because at the end of the day, it's, making a wise business decision, it's tough to make that when you're making it super emotionally based on a sports team, right? Like, if it's a wise business decision to partner with the Cougs, then you should do that whether or not you bleed purple or crimson.
Yeah.
Yeah, target audience.
Yeah.
So you have an opportunity to do that with, what size businesses are you saying that is a sweet spot for you in terms of people advertising
Yeah.
with the Cougs?
We work with all different levels of businesses. We have partners who are really just starting up their businesses. I've talked to a couple businesses this year. One of them I'll shout out is Bigfoot Mechanical, who's an HVAC company in Spokane, and he's just starting out. He entrusted me with a bit of his marketing budget this year and has some LEDs running at our games to be seen on TV, and has some ads running on the radio for people in Spokane listening to the Cougs on the radio, and he's entrusted me a little bit with that. So small company there who's starting out, just wants a little bit of traction and brand awareness in Spokane. We also work with companies like Toyota and State Farm and Coors Light and Northern Quest, and companies who are like, just plaster me all over the place. I want every Coug fan to know that I'm a partner of WSU.
How many different media outlets do you have a choice of that you can do?
In terms of like different assets we could offer?
Where the ad can be placed and...
Oh, probably hundreds. And that's why I always go into my meeting with people trying to ask more questions than I never like to go in and be like, we have this asset, this and this and that, because 90% of the assets might not even appeal to them.
Might not need.
So we have hundreds. We have tons of different signage at games, radio assets. You can set up a table and hand out stuff to people. We have ads that run online. You can do NIL campaigns, which is something I'm going to get into in a little bit with some of our players. Tons of stuff. But I always feel like if I go through each asset line by line, we'd be there for 4 hours, and you'd probably be so inundated with all this stuff. So I like to figure out what's best for the partner, and then
It's an hour show.
So-
Right, yeah.
whew.
So
Limited time.
that sounds like then you do a consultative, plan with the business owners to identify what is the best campaign for their need.
Absolutely.
With that, and you set any objectives or goals, or is it, I know we talked about this, but what's the measurement? What's the measure of success
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like that you use the word consultative, because that's something my boss and I have been talking about a lot, that we're not salespeople, we're sales consultants. And I go into a meeting trying to figure out a few different things. I want to learn the history of your company. I want to know your company just as well as you do, which I know is not possible, but that's my goal. I want to know everything about your company. I want to know your challenges. I want to know what's worked, what hasn't worked, and I also want to know what your goals are for the year. But also, a question I always ask in every meeting is, how do you evaluate success in a partnership? And this probably answers your question in terms of value and measurement. Some people say, I want direct ROI. I want to know exactly how many people saw my sign and then walked through my door in the next week. And for us, that's kind of tough, right? Because we're putting a sign up at a game and 30,000 people are seeing at a Cougar football game. I can't go survey each one of them, right? And we have other ways to do that, whether it's digital campaigns where I can tell you exactly how many people clicked on it, or maybe a social media post with one of our players, and I can show you the likes and engagements, and that's probably a better option for that person. We also have people who say, just give me impression numbers, and that usually tends to be larger clients, or it could even be people who are just like, I just want to get my name out there. I want people to know that I'm here in Spokane, I'm new, this is my logo, so when you see me elsewhere, you recognize me, you build that trust, it's like legitimacy, and they might just want impression numbers. Just tell me how many people were seeing my ad when it was running, where we were watching the Cougar game on TV and saw my ad, or how many people were at the game, or how many people listen on the radio. And that's great too. So a question I always like to ask is, how do you evaluate success in a partnership? Because when I come back at the end of the year, if you choose to come on board, I want to know what metrics to show you, right? And I also want to know mid-year, like, what metrics do we have to hit? Like, what's success for you? How many impressions, how many clicks on your ad, right? And for some people, in my initial meeting, I found out that it's great and it works, and this could be the perfect thing for them. And I also have meetings where we just figure out it's probably not right. And I don't want that person spending money with me if it's not going to work. And I tell them, like, hey, you should probably spend this elsewhere, or like, if we may be too expensive, like, I know someone who works for a different team who you should probably talk to because they might be better. I'm a consultant. I want what's best for the business. And I always say when someone signs on, like, I work for your business now, right? I'm a little part of your business. So I want to make sure things are successful for you. I know I said a lot there. Hopefully I answered your question somewhere in there.
No, it was a good answer. As the answer I would hope to hear, because there's so many business owners, especially the businesses we attract and bring in, that they know they need to get their name out there, and they oftentimes get told that this is the way to do it. And they spend the money and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then they're left with, what went wrong? I must be bad because I spent this money and I didn't get anything back.
Yeah.
And so it is important to be consultative and say, there are things that work, and they work for businesses that have the right goal, what they want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's just in everyone's best interest to know that, because I don't want to run an unsuccessful campaign and then someone comes back to me angry, right? That helps no one. And so there are people where I think an example of someone it probably wouldn't work for is if I sat down with someone and they're like, I need people in my store tomorrow. Well, it probably doesn't work, because what we're best at with sports marketing is building brand affinity over time.
Right.
So if your goal is more, like, I'm working with a law firm here, Cooney Law Offices in Spokane. They're fantastic, and what they really love is just building that brand affinity over time. And just each game, people seeing their ad and continuing to them just a little bit more and a little bit more. And they have billboards around town, and they have radio, and it mixes all together. Because hopefully you go down to the Cougar game and you see them, and then you're driving around Spokane and you see the billboard, or you hear them on the radio. Oh, I think I saw them at the Cougar game. Like, they do the official reviews, they sponsor those. Which I think is, law offices, official reviews with the refs, right? I came up with that. I thought it was pretty creative. They liked it too.
That's great.
So for them, it works a ton. But if they were to tell me, I want 10 people coming through my door tomorrow, I would tell them, we're probably not the right thing for you.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
I want to take this in a slightly different direction based on something you said there, and I'm going to have you repeat it. So
Okay.
this question that you ask about, like, what does success look like? Say that question again.
Yeah. What does success look like for you in a partnership or in a marketing campaign?
Perfect. So I kind of want to talk about this as a group and, like, just kind of get a pulse for how do we find that out? Because that's something that's important to you. And I think around the table, we're all nodding. We all agree. I think anybody that's tuned in and listening to this is like, yeah, I want to know what a successful, for my particular vernacular, with me, with real estate, like, what does success look like? It's pretty easy to measure. I helped you buy a house, or I helped you sell your house. For the most part, that fits. But how do we get to that? How do we, and maybe even beyond the obvious, how do we get to, like, that deeper level of a relationship where it's like, and again, maybe this is like, for me, it's maybe overly on the top, right? Maybe a business furniture place like this, they're like, success is you bought a piece of furniture, but kind of dive a little bit deeper into that more philosophical. How do we get to what does success look like, and then actually deliver that to our clients?
Yeah. I'm going to take notes while you do this too.
Okay.
This is good stuff for me to know as well. So please, let me know.
That's great.
I'm thinking you have to know your customer journey. The business needs to initially, because, like you as a real estate agent, you might be getting to know that business that individual for a year or more.
Sure.
Right? There's some customer journeys are, like you said, with the furniture place here, pretty quick.
Sure.
Right, so it'd be a fast turnover. So hopefully, if I were to work with a business on that, I would want to know what their customer journey is and how long that is, because that's gonna dictate success in any kind of campaign we do, and it's also gonna dictate what kind of campaign you do, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my first thought.
I like it. That's good. Dave, what does success look like for you so I'll talk you up a little bit. Dave coaches.
Please, help yourself.
Dave
I'll be right here.
Dave coaches, and he does a great job of helping people stand out in a crowd, right? How to present yourself, how to be. And so I've seen you transform people from like, we'll say a lump of clay to something that's like, oh wow, that's what that person almost. And I'm just kind of almost answering my own question here, but you know, people that do sculpting, right? They say, and I think it was Michelangelo that said, it's not that I made this thing, I saw the thing and I just scraped away the excess stone. And so you have this gift at that, but I'm curious for you, how do you measure success where you're like, I helped that person, and maybe that one, it's like, oh, I mean, I helped them realize that business wasn't for them, but I didn't. How do you gauge that?
I don't know, we typically start out with where are you trying to go and what do you need to work on?
Yeah.
And then I go to work on working on them. And we start to replace habits that no longer serve people for habits that will probably stay with them for the rest of their life. And the way that happens is that they go out the next day and they have some success with that.
Yeah.
And they come back to me a week later and they go, this happened. This really did happen. You're right. I couldn't believe it, you know. But my job for a lot of it is just to identify what the limiting beliefs are. And then we also go to work on trying to help them identify things that aren't not working. And typically most of the people we work with think that they got it after the first conversation. I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. And then you check with them a couple of weeks later and they've fallen back into the old habits because it's, you know, somebody went to a networking event and placed a microphone in their hand and they froze up. They weren't prepared. They weren't totally rehearsed. They weren't practiced.
Yeah.
Once they get into a thing where they start to see that this stuff really does work, if you let me break it down for you and then make you practice, that's what we do every couple of weeks. Then they come back a month or 2 or 3 later and they go, okay, I can't believe how much more I'm hearing, you know, how much more I'm witnessing when I go into a networking event.
Yeah.
Or when I'm going to talk to a client, I'm so much more relaxed. I used to be just a nervous wreck. I'm an introvert. Well, I am too, so what?
Yeah.
So it's those kind of things that over time, the success shows up.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins said one time, if you're really trying to understand how this all works, success leaves clues. And so when you go to your next meeting, if you've had some time with me, I'm pretty sure you're going to walk in there a lot more comfortable, a lot more aware. You're going to have increased ability to hear what's really going on. You're going to notice body language. You're going to notice what's behind the eyes, the inflection, the hand gestures, all of that. And that's just helping them with a networking event. That's not even starting to work with them in terms of career and where they could probably do better. Quick story. I had a young person complain to me about how they thought they were going to go ahead and move on to another job. They'd only been there 6 months and they didn't feel appreciated and they didn't feel like they were even noticed, and it was really bugging them. So they were going to go look for something else. And I kind of stopped him and I said, you know, you're not going to like what I'm going to say here, but how much work have you put into becoming more valuable to the person that pays you, writes your check? How much time have you really invested in that? What do you mean? And I said, well, you make yourself more valuable and no one's going to let go of you. You make yourself more valuable, you're going to have competitors that want to talk to you. It all starts with what you're bringing to the table. So we get into that too. That's another way of helping them get to a successful conclusion about how they should really operate and behave out there.
Yeah.
So,
Nick, I want to direct it towards you. You and I are on the opposite side of this real estate thing, and your path for most people is a little bit more linear, right? They apply for a loan, you might consult with them about what would be a good product and all of that stuff. But in terms of like the interaction with onboarding, right? How do you find that you get a chance to kind of help figure out like what would be a successful outcome here? As with me, it's pretty obvious.
So onboarding like with another mortgage lender or just in the real estate market?
I would say just when you have a client come in, right?
or a prospect.
A prospect would be, yeah, a good, how much of, what does success look like for you is a part of that conversation, and how much of that is kind of implied, where it's like, well, get me a loan so I can buy a house and we're good.
Well, I think just for full engagement, you really got to find out, but what do you actually know about mortgage, or what do you know, what you don't know? Because I want to start where you're at,
Yes.
right? And then we start that conversation. A lot of times you're working with first-time home buyers that they really don't know much.
Sure.
Their mentality or their ideology on what is needed to buy a house is off,
Right.
right? And that education piece is, I think, kind of soothing to them to a degree.
Yeah.
When they're sitting down, I mean, I don't know what they don't know. So I start basing it, tell me, what are your ideas behind this? I mean, what is your goal? And we'll just start from there. And you just start the education process there. But without understanding where they're at mentally, you really can't start anywhere. Because I can't start where I start, right?
Right. Right.
I'll lose them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No,
So you bring them up to speed, and then a lot of times, you run into a borrower that comes in just from Sphere. They don't have a real estate agent, and you kind of talk to them, get to know where their mentality is, and then you can go, I know this guy John Byron. He would probably be your guy because you guys are more in tune.
yeah.
But the majority of my business is serving and understanding where somebody else is.
Yep.
Because basically, what I know doesn't really matter unless they're up to speed.
Can I relate a story, which I love what you're saying, because I think there needs to be more of that. 2019, I inherited a house and had a reverse mortgage on it, and I had to refinance to pay that off and so on. So I have a business owner, not perfect credit, not, issues in the background. I approached a credit union because my uncle had a account there, and I got that account and so on. And so I just thought, well, I'll be loyal, I'll do this. And all along I was talking to a loan officer, and I was telling her, I don't have perfect credit. There are problems, there are issues in here. I'm a business owner, and things. She got, don't worry about, we're gonna get it off to the guys, and they're gonna, write it up. I'm drawing a blank now.
The underwriter.
Underwriter's gonna get off to underwriting. They're gonna tell us. I'm going, this is gonna be an issue. I headed out to Vancouver, BC for an event, and I get this voicemail on my phone saying, I'm sorry, there's a problem. We can't fund this. And I'm 72 hours from signing final papers, and they're saying they can't do this. And I called her back and I said, I've been telling you all along, this is this is there. And she says, well, we didn't realize how soon it was, how recent it was, and things like that. And you're for a qualifying loan, it doesn't work. I'm going, okay. The most important thing was she told me non-conforming. I immediately sat down on the internet. I said, non-conforming loans. Found a guy down in Southern California, got on a call with him. He says, I know exactly what you need. You don't need all this credit. We just need to see your tax return, your business books for the last 3 years, and I'll get you a non-qualifying loan. He was done faster than it took her.
Right.
And all it took was somebody who actually sat down and said, let's look at this and see what's really, and that's why consultative is so important,
Yeah.
to listen and understand what's your situation. Let's line you up with the right thing. That to me is success. Everybody has a problem. If we solve that problem, then we win a customer, for life.
Yeah, you'll find out a lot of problems just by asking the question and just listening. Right, find out where they're at.
Yeah.
And especially with business owners, depending if you're, an S corp or 1120S or K1, there's multiple different ways of being able to look at that. And I would like to say we do a lot of loan repair because our underwriters are common sense underwriters, and they're like, well, if you just switch this and this, you could get it. I think it's a dead deal. And she's looking at it going, oh no, this is perfect. Right? But we always double check our stuff because I'm not the authority on anything. And we work as a group of knowledge people. But yeah, we listen.
Kip, the other thing I want to jump into, and maybe you can speak to it a bit, and then we can talk is the idea of partnership. And I really like, even beforehand we were talking, and I was like, well, what if I'm not a fan of WSU, or I have loyalties with other teams, or I'm just not a fan of football, and I get a client from my advertising with WSU, and they're like, hey, did you catch the game? And I'm like, I actually don't like football at all, right? Something like that. But your response to that, and something that you kind of shared in that presentation, is this idea of partnership. And so one of the things that I'm really curious, and I actually got to tour Gonzaga at some point and like kind of talk to their, similar to what you do, but more like season ticket holder type level of partnership. And I really liked that idea. And so speak maybe a little bit to like when you're partnering with a school's athletic program, like what are you helping that school do? And then on the broader scale, and this is for everybody, is like, what are some of these strategic partnerships? Like when I partner, we partner here together, we all come together, and I actually want to use this as an excuse to talk about, we're all drinking some, I gotta go like this, some bubbly water, and we had some snacks brought to us from last week's guest, Caleb Stapp, just delivered handwritten notes. This guy's a legend. So if you didn't get to tune in last week, check out Caleb Stapp and what we talked about with him.
By the way, Kip, no pressure.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about what I can do. I'm gonna look up after this. What's one thing better than bubbly?
There you go.
Try to see what I can do.
This is like the paperclip game, right? We just keep trading up
Yeah.
until we've got like steak dinners. And
Yes. Yeah.
Who's next week?
Well, I can speak a little bit, and hopefully I can answer your question here.
Yeah.
But when you partner with the university, sponsorship dollars from a university are crucial. And they help an athletic department run. There's so many expenses that go into an athletic department, just from, there's so many things you have to pay for. Travel, loans taken out on facilities and projects. There's a million different things, scholarships for players. There's a million different things you have to pay for. And so being able to support your favorite college athletic program, or maybe not even your favorite college athletic program, is huge. And it's something that we rely on. It's something that the community relies on. Could you imagine if WSU football or Gonzaga basketball just didn't happen one year? Like, that'd be huge for the community. And so dollars going toward that are huge. And we hope that our partners feel like we're thankful for that.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's definitely one of the benefits of supporting. And I think before we were talking, I was using you as an example. Like, even though you're not a WSU fan, like, you might run into people who you're talking to about at home who are WSU fans. And if you're able to say, oh, I'm a partner of the Cougars, I'm a partner of WSU Athletics, or better yet, I'm the official realtor of the Cougs. That goes a long way, and that builds a ton of trust with that person. They're already on your side. They're already your best friend at that point. And then from there, like, you're home free, right? And even if maybe it doesn't work, but they're like, oh, I have a ton of people that are also Coug fans. I know all these Coug, like, you should go talk to them and them and them, and they're gonna refer people to you. It's this thing that just kind of builds this brand equity over time, and the official realtor of the Cougs is pretty strong. Right? So that's one of the things there, that even if you're not a fan of the Cougs, use us to your advantage. We're a big piece of the community. Cougar Athletics are a huge part of it. We're basically saying, use us to your advantage. Go brag about being a partner of the Cougs, because it has equity around here. It makes a difference.
That makes all the sense in the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you're known as somebody who didn't necessarily, go to that particular school, it doesn't matter.
Right, right. And it's not like, we'll pick on Washington State, right? It's not like they're watching the Cougs game to find out like, oh, John's a supporter of the Cougs, so I can't use him. They don't care. I mean, if I show up in colors and all that stuff, and there could be some animosity, and we could have some fun with it. But
Yeah, if you were like if they were a huge Husky fan and they saw you, like, and that's something that we run into. That's actually an objection I get quite often is that happens to be like with larger statewide companies where they say, okay, well, if I'm a partner of you guys, what if Husky fans see that I'm a partner? And that's when I call up my counterpart, the Huskies, and I say, hey, jump in this one with me.
okay,
Like, let's go in this together.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they sign with both of us and they not only speak to the Cougs, but they speak to the Cougs and Husky fans. And that's also kind of where I do want to shout out, like, I mean, I have counterparts at Gonzaga and Eastern Washington and UW. I don't hate them. They're
Right.
great. They're great people. So if that's the one for you, go reach out to your person at your favorite school too. And maybe they'll tell you the same thing where, hey, you want to speak to the whole state because not everyone that walks through your door is a Gonzaga fan, but reach out to them.
yeah. No,
Like
that's
call their line because they're looking for your call as well.
And something in there that is, I kind of want to highlight and keep this partnership conversation going, is for me, nothing is better at the earlier question that we were talking about. If I want to try to find out your journey and I have to already have rapport with you, right? If I come in and I have to establish that I know what I'm doing, and I'm a good realtor and all of that stuff, like I have to spend a certain amount of equity that I don't even have yet just to establish myself as being legitimate.
Yeah.
And then start to get, but if I walk in and you're like, oh man, my best buddy, Rob Reuter, told me that I can only use John Byron, he's the guy. I walk into that conversation, you already trust me, you already know that I'm gonna do a good job for you. Now, all I have to worry about, I don't have to establish who I am, it's already done.
Yeah.
All I have to worry about is who are you?
Yeah.
And how do I help and serve you? So
Yeah.
I'm curious, other instances of this, like how does partnership with an athletic program, but how does partnership work with?
Well, I want to jump in because I want you to get to the topic about name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
I think I promised that.
And so I'm going to lead you into this because I'm going to say, and this is purely selfish because I'm adjunct at Gonzaga, but there's nothing like walking by the TV and seeing a Northern Quest with a Gonzaga, standing there, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, they get paid.
And it doesn't matter who it is, you key on. And I think getting to John's point, it's about attracting attention to get over that hump of having to establish rapport. It's like if I'm a business owner and I've got that student athlete standing next to me, there's that transfer of
you're borrowing
trust.
a ton of, and kind of to your point too, it's like you're borrowing credibility from us, and like that's essentially what we're offering too. And it's and I'll speak a little bit on NIL for those who don't know about NIL. It stands for name, image, and likeness, and it was a thing that was very heavily debated in the NCAA for decades. Should players be able to get paid? And there were points where a player couldn't even go to the local burger shop near their campus and get a free burger because that was somewhat of like, okay, well, you're getting something for free because of your name, your image, and your likeness because you're the starting quarterback. Now, the cheeseburger example is kind of ridiculous, right? And that's one that a lot of people like to use where the NCAA cracked down a ton on. You can't give these players anything. And then a few years ago, I think it was actually like a week after I graduated college and started. And one of the biggest shifts in college sports that we're ever going to see is the fact that they can now get paid and they can go out in the market and they can partner with brands and they can set their own value. And it's very free market, right? Like it's what are you worth out there? Who's interested in you? And what you're seeing now is a lot of these brands, both big and small, kind of to your point, like with Northern Quest, that's something that our department and Gonzaga's department set up together with our quarterback John Mateer and one of their basketball players Ben Gregg, and we did like a really cool campaign around it. They did a commercial, and you're seeing that now. You're seeing these big brands and small brands using players and paying them a little bit. Maybe it's an autograph session at their store. I set up one with Safeway recently in Pullman, where two basketball players came to the Safeway and they were signing autographs for 2 hours. And a ton of Coug fans came in and they wanted to get all their stuff signed, and then boom, they were in the Safeway. Went and go bought some stuff, right? We posted online, promoted it. It was really successful.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see that now. One of the things I want to talk about today is that now is the time to strike on that because it's new, it's exciting, it's fresh. When you walk by the TV and you see college players in their jerseys next to a brand, that's something that you weren't able to see for decades and was very hotly debated. And I think a lot of people have come around to the idea of, okay, well, they bring in millions of dollars to the university. They're allowed to partner with brands and go out there and see what their market value is. The reason I say now is the time is because 5 or 6 years from now, that's going to be commonplace. And it's not going to be, it's still going to be effective, but it's not going to grab your attention the way it does right now.
Sure.
Because there's so much that goes behind it right now with NIL and players being able to get paid. So it's cost effective as well. I can't personally negotiate on behalf of the players. So when I set up an NIL deal, I tell them how we're going to promote it. And then I give them the contact of our guy at the school, and he says, so-and-so is worth this much and that much, but I can't tell them how much our quarterback's worth.
Sure.
But it tends to be fairly cost effective. I can't give out any price numbers for any of these things, but I will say that it's nothing that a small business or a startup here in Spokane couldn't afford.
Nice.
To have the player out signing autographs and promote it and get some Coug fans through the doors.
So one scenario might be that one of the student athletes comes to your particular place of business. Is that how you arranged some of that?
Yeah, that could be one. For Northern Quest, they wanted to go big and do a big commercial, but the one I set up in Safeway was 2 athletes sitting at a table with a ton of Coug stuff, and we had the mascot out, and they just said, we're going to sit here and sign autographs for 2 hours. And we told a bunch of Coug fans about it. They came out in droves, and we're in Safeway. That was pretty successful for them as a brand.
You could actually have somebody just stop by the tire store and
You could.
and
Yeah.
stand there and say something.
I guess you could, yeah, you could if you wanted to put that in a commercial, or if you just wanted to be like, hey, so and so is going to be here for 2 hours for a meet and greet.
Yeah.
You could do that too. And it
You
needs
should
to
get
be.
a football player on here.
You could, yeah. That'd be good. Yeah.
I had another idea that
If we had a basketball player, they'd be too tall. We have to like adjust the camera for them.
Yeah.
I would
It's
like-
at one level.
I would like for you to put on the Cougars mascot
Oh.
costume.
Okay, host this with
And host
the
this.
mascot.
Yeah, can we get you to do that?
We could try that.
Okay.
Could happen, yeah. I'll see what I can
Mascots
do.
are pretty top secret.
Yeah, the mascot culture is wild.
Yeah.
They can't talk. I don't know if you know this, they can't say a word. So even if you're a staff member and you're like, hey, I need you to go over here, or like if you're filming a commercial with them, like we're getting ready to film a commercial with Adams Tractor and Kubota with the Cougar mascot. And even we're doing that in a couple months. And even then it's gonna be like, hey, we need you over here, or like get up on this tractor. They can't be like, oh, I can't do it. They gotta be like it's like I speak mascot is what I learned to do. I speak mascot.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can't speak, you can't show your face at all. I think this happened, I think this is at WSU too, where you can't even tell like your friends you're the mascot. I know it was this way at TCU. I had a friend where I went to college. I had a friend and had no idea he was the mascot for 4 years. And then at graduation, he walked across stage with the horned frog head on, and I was like, "Oh, you were the mascot
You
for
were
4
the
years?"
dude.
Wow.
I was like, "I never saw you at football games. Like, I guess that's why. I thought you just weren't a football fan."
Wow.
Turns out he was skipping out to go be the mascot.
So do you have commercial agencies in town that you work with?
Yeah. Usually the partner will have their own
Okay.
production. Yeah, and that's usually who I work with. Whether it's directly the partner, or a lot of times they have their own marketing agencies who I talk to, and they know that I'm not a videographer or anything like that. That's not my specialty, so I leave that up to the pros.
But you have the pros ready to go, with anybody that wants to do that.
Yeah. Well, it's usually the company that already has the people.
Okay.
And in that, yeah, they have their people at that point. Because a lot of times they've already been doing commercials a little
Sure.
bit. Like maybe I saw their commercial and that's how I reached out initially and floated the idea to them of, hey, let's do something with the Cougs. So they usually already have the infrastructure to get it done. I just need to show them why it should be the Cougs.
Very cool.
I think there's a lot of success in that type of marketing. Just remember living in Seattle, we had our house there, and we had a major plumbing issue. I was like, sister was like, who do we call? I was like, Beacon Plumbing.
Oh my gosh.
Richard
I
Sherman's
hear-
always on there. Just call them.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are.
You are maybe like the 10th person who's talked about that Beacon Plumbing campaign with the Seahawks to you
The
before.
Seahawks put them on the map.
It's so effective.
It
Like,
is.
that
It's
was-
incredibly effective.
Yeah. Stop freaking call Beacon.
Yeah.
I think that's what they said. Yeah. They
It's just
always
Richard
say-
Sherman. It's like, call him Richard Sherman.
Yeah, call
He'll fix it.
for you. Yeah,
Got
yeah.
the tagline down.
Yeah. Well, and you're gonna see it at the Super Bowl in 3 weeks. Every other commercial is gonna be something involving, I mean, a celebrity or a player. Like I'm sure Travis Kelce will be in a ton of commercials and Mahomes will be in a ton of commercials.
Sure.
And, you know, we're obviously doing that at a little bit smaller of a level here in Spokane with the Cougs, but it's the same idea of getting someone of note in your community. Now there's someone of note in the nation,
Sure,
but same idea.
yeah.
I'll never forget when Brett Favre was doing Wrangler commercials and I was a kid and I told my dad I wanted a pair of Wrangler jeans because of
Sure.
Brett Favre. And that was the first time I can really remember being marketed to by a sports
It
figure.
was Cindy Crawford for me, just for the record.
Cindy Crawford's who made you want to buy Wranglers, or?
Made me want to buy a Pepsi.
Oh. Well, I have some questions for you guys.
All right.
If you have more, please throw them at me. But I want to get some knowledge from you all. So I wrote a few down here.
Great.
So I want to say, as business owners, what's your relationship with marketing, and when do you feel comfortable being like, let's spend some on this? Is there a moment, or how does that work?
I think it's an absolute necessity.
Mm.
Or at least in my industry, is I can go out and talk to 7 people, right, and make an impression on 7 people. But
Yeah.
I'd rather to spend 2 or 3 days and kind of reach out to 200 or 300 people.
Yeah.
I think marketing is, whether it's social media or however you do it, is absolutely essential,
Yeah.
right? Because you got to stand up and go, what makes me different than everyone else in my industry?
Yeah.
Right?
From day one.
Yeah.
From day one marketing. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that.
Well, you know, you dissect that, Rob, because you're talking about doing video shots and things like that.
Yeah, so I will agree that it needs to be part of every business, from the beginning. And if anything, that's where I went wrong for so many years. It took me 14, 15 years to get over the dial and dump culture that I came from. So I didn't do marketing for the first 15 years of my existence because I built it all on relationships. I literally left my employer and turned them into my first customer, and I built everything by word of mouth and so on. But it wasn't until 2015 that things started getting really hard and I wasn't achieving any of my goals. So my message is, yes, it's absolutely important, but I think it comes back to, if you have a business strong enough to offset that expense, then it's time to start doing that on a big scale. Now, what I'm trying to do in my business is educate startups, especially ones that aren't going for big money, is to say what you need to do is you need to start a culture of educating through your marketing and getting money back so that it's a flywheel. Every dollar you spend should actually produce more than $1, so you can put that money back into a new ad. And I see too many businesses that get started and they just, oh, I need social media here. Oh, I need ads here.
Yeah.
Right.
And pretty soon they're going, my business isn't growing, where's my money? That's where it is. So I try to teach more, and this is where Kip and I are, come from back difference. Brand advertising, naming, connecting with a recognized brand, whereas I teach and develop direct response marketing, which means I want to know for every dollar I spend, how many connections did I make and what am I getting back on that money?
Yeah.
So you really hone in on strategy.
Yeah. So both need to be out there, but I just recommend you look carefully at your revenue and say, I have the revenue to put into this. It's kind of like gambling. Gambling's fine as long as you can afford
The
to
loss.
not till the loss.
Yeah.
I think an important piece of that too is making sure that the businesses have systems in place that when they start running advertising and spending money on marketing, that they are acting efficiently on those leads and consistently, because that's building your business reputation and carrying out through the community. And I see a lot of times where people want to, like you're saying, put a bunch of money or even time and effort into social media or ads, and then they don't have a system to follow that up that's consistent. And that makes a big ripple out when you're not showing up consistently as a business. And so that's something I also find really relevant when people start talking about marketing is what's your follow-up? What's, not just when they contact you, but through the whole process of working with you, and then afterwards, make sure that you're maximizing that experience.
Yeah, they say on average it's 7 touches
Yeah.
to really make that relationship work.
Yeah.
Whether
Well,
it works or not.
Right, and then even having systems in place for afterwards, so after you've closed the deal with them, how are you reaching back out to them and making sure that they're happy with their experience?
Yeah.
And are you asking for a referral? Are you going through and getting reviews, things like that are gonna continue to be an ROI on that initial investment.
Right.
Yeah,
And it
Yeah,
goes
that
back to,
engagement and referral aspect of it, that's where a lot of people see the attraction, get my name in front of people, but they don't follow through with how do I take them all the way through and keep them there? Because as the numbers show, it's more expensive to get a customer than it is to keep a customer.
By a higher percentage than you probably think.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can get to be a repeat customer and then refer, that's your marketing campaigns work perfectly.
yeah.
That's everything you could want and more. Yeah.
Right.
It's good. Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the time, and the thought that I had when you asked about marketing, so I don't think we're gonna have time to really roundtable this, but maybe as just a little point to consider, marketing is more than advertising. And I think a lot of times we put those two words together and it's like, at what point can I spend money on advertising?
Yeah.
And I think your point was brilliant, and the picture I get is like, if we did this huge ad campaign for an open house, and it's gonna be Saturday, February 1st, right? And what we meant was Saturday, February 7th, but we accidentally mixed up the 1 and the 7, and everybody shows up and literally nobody's there, right? It's like successful ad campaign. You did your job, the video crew did their job, and everybody's pumped up and excited, and closed doors. Nothing's happening. And I think that's a big aspect of marketing, is that I'm ready to receive you when, if it's 7 touches, it's probably 70 touches now with social media and all the noise out there. You're doing the work, all this money, effort, energy to get people in the door, and they show up and the doors are locked with chains on it and lights are out, and it's like, oh man, and that's a visual. But for any of us, I know I've had an ad campaign served to me, and I click the link and it literally doesn't go anywhere. 404 error, not showing, whatever. And that's, Rob, you can help with that. It's like, let's be prepared to welcome my wife and I do parties. We like to have people. There's a certain amount of effort that goes into preparing for people to come. And then the glove in that hand, or the hand in that glove, is actually inviting them to the event. Sometimes we don't do a great job at inviting, and it's like, oh man, like we could have had more people show up if we'd done better advertising. And other times advertising's great, people show up and we're like, oh, wow, we don't have enough chairs for everybody, we should have
Great
planned a little
advertising.
bit better.
Yeah, well, and kind of to your point there, like marketing is also, well, what's your personality? Like I'll use an example where I've had a client before where they purchase LED signage at the game, so they have that digital ribbon board, and they could just put like John Byron, John Byron, John Byron, John Byron. Well, who are you? I don't know what you do.
Right.
Like, what's your personality, right? And so that's marketing, and like it may cost something to advertise, but does it actually cost something to build a brand personality? Because it's what you're using with those advertising assets where you can build out John Byron, Spokane's best realtor. My goal is to sell 100 new homes this year. You know, what you said at the beginning here.
Right.
Like, that's
Yeah.
great marketing. It costs you nothing to come up with that.
Sure.
So, like, that's also where it matters too, is how you're doing it. And that's kind of where I talk about being a consultant, right? Like, I'm going to tell you what works with our fans and what doesn't work with our fans.
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
a
a good part of
good
it.
point you make, because I mean, and using myself as an example, like I might have a great conversation here at this table, and if you guys are like, oh, that guy's pretty cool, I like him, and go away not knowing that I sell houses,
Yeah.
that I want to help people buy houses, like, great, I made a good buddy, or I made a good impression, and good impressions are important.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there's no, and I like that word brand, we're all familiar with it, but like, if it's not like, oh, that's the guy that's trying to sell 100 houses, right? Then you're talking to somebody like, yeah, I'm thinking about buying a house. You're like, oh, I don't know, Google somebody. And it's like, and I'm sitting there thinking, what?
I just told you.
I just-
I love that. I don't know if that's like because I feel like you've told me that before,
Yeah,
just like when we talk one-on-one, but I'm like in that with you. I feel like I want to check in at the end of the year because
I
I'm
love
like
it.
pumped
I
if you
love
get
it.
to like 101. Like
Yeah.
that'd be awesome. I hope everyone else is too.
for sure. I think it is interesting, and I don't want to go too far. You know, I want this to be about everybody, and I do want this to add value.
Yeah.
But like, it was for me, I have been doing so many of these other things that I haven't been, hey, I'm a realtor, hey, I'm a realtor. I've been talking about, let's network, let's do business meetings, let's do all these different things. And my real estate business is showing the signs of that, like where it's like, I'm not doing as much business as I was 2 years ago. And I'm like, okay, I need to sell some houses. So as I was thinking about, okay, how do I make that something that people walk away remembering without being, because I don't know, I don't think any of us, like, you don't want to like, hi, I'm the sports guy. Hi, I'm the sports guy. Hi, you know, it's like, you don't want that, like, hi, I'm a realtor. It's just, nobody likes that. So like, well, I was like, what could I do that would be, you know, energizing for me to where I don't feel, I have yet to feel weird saying that. Now, it is a ridiculously ambitious goal, and I have had some people be like, how are you gonna do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. So,
He should get a billboard. Put John Byron, my goal is to sell 100 homes this year. The city of Spokane would go crazy.
Yeah.
They'd be talking about it. They'd
There
be
you
like, we
go.
gotta help him get his goal. We gotta help him get his goal.
Little line down at the bottom goes, help me.
Help
Please.
Well, that's great. Well, we are very rapidly coming to the end. Dave, you have an event,
February 8th,
February 8th,
it's a Saturday at Shadle Library. It's a free workshop, 10:45
and
in the morning.
John and I, we mentioned we're doing an event next Saturday, 10 to noon. If you're interested in cold immersion, blood sugar, those kind of things, hit us up for that. What other events do we have coming up? What do we know about?
I just know that the tagline for your event that's coming up
Yes,
should be, what's so hot about cold immersion?
I love
yes.
it.
What is so
that's
hot
great.
about cold immersion?
Wow.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about that, reach out.
Go find out.
Find,
So speaking of events, next week, Launchpad is doing innovation event on Wednesday, it's 29th.
okay,
And I don't remember now where the event is, but look for Launchpad INW online and you'll find out, or on Eventbrite. And SPOPRO.
oh, SPOPRO.
SPOPRO is doing their event next week as well on Thursday.
Awesome.
So there's a couple opportunities.
We're
Excellent.
gonna start building that,
Yeah.
right? We're
Well,
gonna
that's-
start,
Something we talked about, and we'll kind of end on this. We want one of the aspects of this to be a go-to resource for what's going on this week, what's coming up, so people can get it on their calendar. Because, and Dave, you're legendary at this. You got to show up. You got to be in person. Nick, I'm glad that you came out today.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you all for coming out.
Yeah.
It's so
we're
good.
Thanks to our new friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad you're doing it.
But we really do. We wanna help everybody in Spokane go find all these places to meet
Yeah,
people.
so much value being, you can't get that without being in person,
Yeah.
so. Find something, get plugged in, come here, join us on a Friday. And I think with that, you wanna take it out for us, smash the bell, however you say that?
Yeah, guys, first off, I'd like to posit a question. What are the 4 Ps of marketing? Something to think about.
Okay,
4
4 Ps of marketing. We'll follow up on that next week.
Yep, be sure to check everything out. Check out the links in the video description below. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we all did. Be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that bell. See y'all next week.
All right, we're out, thanks.